Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us and welcome to the latest session on today's Teachers' Day at the ELT Conference. I hope you had a quick lunch after watching what I think all of us will agree was a really inspiring plenary to get us set up for the afternoon sessions. We're delighted to see so many people from all over the world joining us today for this session. We are able to offer it for free to teachers, members and non-members, thanks to the generous contributions and support of our sponsors. So I would like to say a big thank you to our sponsors, Cambridge Assessment English, Ensley Insurance, Language Cert, Macmillan Education and Trinity College London. Please do check out what they're doing, offering lots of support to teachers, lots of interesting new products. So do check them out if you have a chance. I'm Tim. I'm working at English UK. I'm in London at the moment, in North London. If you are able to put a comment in the chat box with your name and where you're dialing in from, that'll be interesting to see what we've got in the room today. We do encourage participation through the Q&A box or the chat function. So please do pop your ideas or your questions as they come up during the session. And if there's time at the end, then Jill and David will get to them. Final piece of housekeeping, if we drop off, something happens to someone's Zoom, then just hold on a couple of seconds and then try and rejoin through the original link, and then you'll come back into the room. That's it. Housekeeping's easy online. You know where your own toilets are, and your coffee, if it's terrible, is up to you and not my fault this time. So I'm going to, without further ado, pass over to David and to Jill, and they're going to talk us through virtual reality, gimmick or effective learning tool. So over to you, David and Jill.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Share my screen.
Cool. Right, welcome everyone. My name's Jill Davidson. I'm the Group Academic Director at EC English, and I'm joined by what's the preposition? I'm David Byrne, who's our Curriculum Manager.
Hi everyone.
And most importantly, we've both been teaching for hundreds of years. We wanted to talk about our journey on virtual reality, basically from skeptic to believer, and how we are using it to provide courses within our EC virtual environment. So we'll be describing our transition from skeptic to believer, and we both were very skeptical at the beginning. And we'll be looking at what some of our concerns were, the sort of research look that we had, the highlights from that research, and then talking about what we see as the benefits of the HR environment and how we approached writing the curriculum and our next steps from there on. So I think this describes us perfectly at the beginning. We were busy. We have a virtual product where our schools are starting to reopen. There's a lot of demand for changing curriculum and introducing new programs. And, you know, when somebody came along and said, look at this VR, we weren't exactly overjoyed. We both had experience in the past of seeing different people's ideas about using VR, a lot for training. Most importantly, we'd only ever seen VR, and this happened at the beginning as well. When we started using it in the company, we'd only seen it through our flat screens. So neither of us had goggles, and we were very much introduced to it through our laptops. And to be honest, it looks a bit childish. It didn't look particularly attractive, but there was a lot of interest from young learners, and it is 2020 was last year, and we all know what happened then. So we really had to take a deeper dive and look more carefully at it, because I mean, we had to move all our schools online, and online is still the place to be at the moment. So we were complete skeptics. Our first impressions were not great. And then we got goggles. And as you can see in that picture, well, David, you describe it.
Honestly, so I mean, this was huge. Ms. Jill says we were absolute skeptics, and I got the goggles first. Someone sent them to me to sort of have a look, and I think Jill, you'll say, you know, you were still a little bit dubious, and I was very much more sold. And then there was a beautiful moment, this kind of moment here that you see in the picture. I was on Teams and I was talking Jill through setting it up. I don't think she'd had a particularly good day, and she had the goggles on and she was, oh, what's happening? I was like, download this on your phone, click this, then you're there. And the beautiful moment when Jill got it and I watched it was when she just went, oh. And from that moment she was sold, because it is completely different seeing it on your flat screen and experiencing it as our students will.
And we saw this across the board. Every person that we talked to, their initial reaction to VR was kind of iffy. And then as soon as they got given the goggles, their engagement just went from here to here. So
it was great, but I think we still had reservations. We still weren't sure if this amazing experience could really lead to learning. And there has been a lot of research done over the last while. And I think it's important to say that I think virtual reality is here. Virtual reality in education is here now. It's not, because as Jill said, of 2020 and everything like that, it's not something we can avoid as a complete gimmick. There's a lot of research being done. There's a lot of different companies looking at this. You can see some of them there. What we found when we looked at the research was it was very much about the experience, and that's fine. That was really important, and it was very interesting. Some of the big benefits that kept coming up again and again was that it really lowered this affective filter, this barrier that some students had towards learning, and you can see why. One of the big barriers we had when we moved our students online was cameras on. All cameras were off. People were nervous about how they looked, how their house looked, their environment. With virtual reality, that's gone entirely. They are immersed in the environment. They're an avatar. So there's so much that they don't have to worry about. They don't have to worry about feeling foolish or something like that. So there's a lot more engagement. There was also a lot of work into people with learning difficulties and how inclusive it was, because immediately distractions were gone. Your phone is gone. When you're in the goggles, you can't see your phone. So you're not looking at that. You don't have anyone coming into the classroom and disturbing. You don't have a window to look out. You don't have someone across the room doing something, outside of the lesson. Everything that you see, even if you're distracted by it, moves towards the learning objective. So it really did raise engagement, especially for people with behavioral issues or learning difficulties. And there was quite a bit of research into how it aided with retention. And I think one of the things we've all done, we teach our students a kind of a transactional conversation, a shop, a restaurant or something like that. And we get them to mingle at the top of the class, or these days in a breakout room, and they act out the scene. I'm the waiter and you're the customer. And it's all very not real. It's all, there's no link between that and the real world. The beautiful thing about this is, if we're going to practice a restaurant conversation, we take you to a restaurant. So the environment is just much more real. So there is some research that it helped with retention, because it was immediately applicable, and immediately you could link it to real life experience. So there is a lot, but as you can see, it's very experiential in terms of the research. There are other research. Here's one that I think Jill's going to tell us a little bit about.
There's some fairly bold claims out there about learning. This is research that has been published by PwC. Now they're claiming that it's 4 times faster to train than in the classroom. and students are 275% more confident to apply their skills. So that is a very, very bold claim. We're taking that with a pinch of salt. There's no numbers published. There's no methodology published. There's no, it's a very nice presentation, but there's no peer review. So there's very big claims, bold claims out there. I mean, I think a lot of people are very keen on the idea of VR. It's definitely easier and cheaper for companies to bring people together for training than it would be across different branches for etc. So there's reasons why people are very in favor of it, but we didn't want to just trust in research. We want to do some more of our own research, and we'll talk about what we're doing later. If we can go to the next slide. In the Microsoft research, there's a very good quote here, and this is so true. David, can we go back and not have the distraction? Thank you. We've seen this a lot, not just with VR, but with lots and lots of stuff that's been launched into English language teaching in terms of online courses or teacher support, where technology takes front and place. It's the technology is amazing, but they haven't really thought about the pedagogical context or the content. So a lot of initiatives we've been pitched, we've not adopted, because it's all about the technology. The content is very much a second thought. And we really wanted to avoid that in this case. And then we can say the proof of the pudding will be in the eating.
You love that animation. So for us, as Jill said, the technology was important, but we had to make sure the learning was there. So first of all, the platform was very, very important for us. Immerse, who I think you will hear a lot more of in the coming months and coming years. I've already seen, they're advertised in IATEFL Voices. They've entered themselves into the Eltons. I think we'll see a lot more. And we're working with them because they wanted to, they were not just about the technology. They wanted to put learning at the center. They were developed for English language teaching. And, you can see there, it does look quite cartoony. So we wanted to delve a little bit deeper. For me, the first thing was what's possible in there? What are the different situations I can take our students to? And you'll kind of immediately see as a teacher, we had these collaboration scenes. So a kitchen where you work to put together a recipe, a desert island where you work to solve puzzles and build a raft, a wizard's classroom where you work together to make potions and things like that. Yes, it's fun. Yes, it's engaging, but it's developing those 21st century skills of cooperation, collaboration, and the language students are using in order to do this is the kind of stuff that we would teach them: instruction giving, signposting, checking instructions. So there is real opportunity in there for learning. There was also so many transactional scenes. So cafes, restaurants, hotel lobbies, shopping centers. So much of what we teach, we don't have that next step. Like we send students off for homework to, I know I've done it. I've said, call a restaurant and book a table, or, go into the shopping center and try and use this language. We don't have to. We can take them there immediately. So there's real possibility here. And then sort of my favorite ones, in class, I'll very often do open panel debates. We'll do presentations and things like that. Instead of having to do that all in the classroom, we take them there. We take them to a quiz show style room where they all sit at a table with buzzers. We take them to a comedy club where they can tell stories and present, and their peers, their classmates are in the audience, and they can clap, they can give thumbs up, they can interact with them. So there's all this beautiful feedback. But again, can we really teach in there, or is that just stuff? Is it just pretty? I would say the answer is yes, we can teach in there, because Immerse has been designed for teachers. They have a lot of people in it from our industry. So can we actually teach a class? Yes, because anywhere I want, in any scene, at any time, I can drop a whiteboard like you see in this hotel lobby, and everything is a teachable moment. I can elicit, I can type there immediately, I can put up aims, objectives, I can do a lot. I can also label, as you can see in the bottom picture, if there's anything in the scene that's taking away that I just want them to be able to use the vocabulary again and again, I can just put that up and it stays as a label the whole time. I can make it small, I can make it big. There's rallying, the most important thing. At any point, I can bring students together like that at the click of a button and focus their attention on an area, which is, you can't teach in VR without that. Prompts, so this quiet word that we like to have with our students, I can send individual students a little message and they'll see it on their wristwatch. It pops up on their watch, no one else can see it. Don't forget your past simple there, John. Grouping, we can put our students in small groups. I can control the audio so that they can hear each other or they can't hear each other. We can put in slides, so we can have a presentation, we can have videos. So a lot of the stuff that we do in the classroom, we can do here. So it's not just window dressing, it's not just pretty. There is real teaching, classroom management skills that we can do, and it's easy to do. Most importantly for me, oh, sorry, one last thing, roll cards. So, you know, when you maybe give student A, student B, you're this, you're that, you can just very quickly do that and send it to students' watches. So there's a lot you can do to kind of exploit the classroom management tools within.
When David says send to student watches, you're so used to using this now, David. Every avatar has a watch and you can send messages to it. And if I'm in virtual reality, I just go like that and I can see my message from my teacher and they're personalized. So you can also use it for personalized feedback.
Yeah, it is really, really nice. And as I said, you'll see from my engagement, you know, I'm a bit sold on that. I've spent a lot of time writing lessons, observing, preparing, and, you know, as someone who's always been about what are students learning, what are they better at by the end of the lesson, I've been quite sold by this and what we can do. One of my favorite things is we have a classroom in there. So here you can see this giant television. That's where we can play videos and slides. And let me tell you, when you're in it, you know, you could happily sit down and watch a film on that. The audio is clear, the picture is clear. And for students, they feel like they're sitting next to someone. If they turn left, if they turn right, there's someone sat next to them. And that whiteboard, we can type on it, we can draw on it. So there's a lot we can do in there. Now, when we wanted to sort of design the curriculum, we first of all started, as Jill said, with young learners. And we decided we wanted to work with 21st century skills because the young learners, we want to really activate the language maybe they're learning in school and encourage communication, collaboration. And we wanted to obviously work in social and cultural awareness. We also wanted to, we chose the key CEFRs, the spoken production, spoken interaction, because there are still limits to virtual reality. You're not in there with a book. You're not in there doing long extended readings or lengthy listening exercises. You're not doing much writing. There are limits. We needed to use virtual reality for what it's good for. So will it entirely replace the classroom? Not in the current form, I don't think. But if you can use it well, it can really help production, help aid production and aid retention. So we took these two things, 21st century skills and CFR, and we turned...
Sorry, can I just interrupt there? Most importantly for the YLs, we know that they're getting lots and lots of the book learning in their schools. And what's not happening is that being activated into communication. So that's, it fits perfectly with that because it then helps them activate their book learning that they're already getting. So that's why the YL curriculum is entirely in VR.
And so we took those things and we worked out a nice young learner curriculum that each spread over 5 days, and each day they are working on either collaboration, conversation, transaction, presentation, and on the 5th day they bring it all together. And this is using virtual reality for what it's best at: production, conversation, real life situations. One of the nice things you can do in it, and that's why the 5th day is completely given over to this practice, you can do extended role plays. So you can do so as you can set up over the week. Maybe a student arrives on an airplane, they go to customs and they speak to the customs person. They then go off to the hotel and they check in. They then have issues in their hotel room and they talk to the hotel person. They then go off to a restaurant. You can have these extended role plays where you take them through scene by scene. So it just becomes much less of a sort of fake classroom exercise and much more real, which I think students really appreciate. So at the moment, what do we have? We have an Easter course that is currently running for young learners. We're planning for summer courses, and we're also planning for the long-term students in their countries studying with us like 1 day a week. But we also wanted to look at adult. So we have adult groups starting with us at the moment. And as I said, there's limitations. So to get around that, we are using flat screen lessons, so Teams we use for input, for using your course book, doing your readings, doing your listenings. And then we use virtual reality for what it is good for, practice production. If you think of virtual reality as a breakout room with a lot more options, a breakout room that is real for these students. And that's how we're kind of using it. That's how we're setting up our courses.
David, if you hold on a minute, we had a raised hand. Nilufar, do you have a question?
Raised hand seems to have gone. If you write it in the Q&A or the chat window, Nilufar, we can.
Yeah, we've got one question already sitting there. We'll do most of the questions at the end unless it's relevant to the exact slide. So as we said, we've got the YL courses running, which are very much to complement what's happening in kids' school learning. And then we've also got the adult courses, which are full on book learning via flat screen technology, and then the communication with the VR at the end. It's still early days for us, but we obviously, we're really invested in this. I don't know if you've noticed, but David's really quite passionate about it. We really want this. We can really see a future for this, and even when our full immersion schools open, we can see a future for this as well, because not all students can travel. So we're looking at what our next steps will be. We want this to be as effective as possible. We, as David said, we really, at EC, we really believe in a sort of learning journey for our students. We believe in learning being visible and being talked about, and students being encouraged to reflect and to think about what they're doing. And we want to bring that into all the spaces that we're now teaching in. So we've got 3 steps figured out for, and you know, nothing rocket science here, but feedback is obviously incredibly important. And teacher feedback, because we go in and observe it. It's great for observation. You can observe without anyone knowing you're there. It's quite sneaky. But we need lots of feedback from the teachers, because it's them that's in the space. So there's so much happening in there that teacher collaboration and teacher feedback is really important for us to really maximize the use of the VR environment. Teacher observation is very important as well, and research. So we'll look at teacher feedback. We'll also do student feedback. We'll do questionnaires. We'll do focus groups. We'll do focus groups in the VR environment. We'll basically bore the students rigid with feedback. But it's really important. It's the best way to know how effective we're doing. We've set up, we've come up with a curriculum. We're trying out that curriculum. We're not saying that this is the final way that our lessons will be, but we're fairly confident that effective learning will happen. So we've got feedback, and then we've got teacher observations. So we're big fans of the Contra indicator. So basically what we're looking for is that in the VR observation, there are success criteria for the lesson. The students know what they're meant to be doing. The great thing about VR is the interactivity. the challenging thing about VR is that your students just can go in and play and have a great time, but not really learn very much. So it needs to be clear what the students are going to be learning, and that the VR environment is being exploited for what it's good at, and that's communication, and not students trying to put hats on each other's heads. The contra indicators, that the things that we're looking for that will tell us that it's not working, is when VR is the talking point, when the thing that the students are talking about is what the environment, what they can do in the environment, whether or not they can take a selfie. You can take a selfie, and they're not talking about the lessons, unless the lesson is to teach each other to take a selfie.
Rarely
and then
is.
that's fine. That would be quite a limited lesson though, although very popular with some of our students. We need to make sure that our lesson plans are being applied and learning is happening. And we also, you know, as David said, you can do this whole transactional or collaborative, going through different environments and building up a sort of I'm running out of words, David, and building up a staged lesson through different environments. But if you're just jumping from place to place, trying out different things, then that's not, it's just like real teaching in the classroom. It's just like teaching in the classroom. You need to know that your activities are joining together, so learning is building. And it's just the same in the VR environment. But of course, when you go into a new environment, sometimes you can get a bit carried away and forget the basics. So, sorry, I'm just looking, there's some questions, but we'll leave.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting ones, but I think it's best to chat through them at the end. There's quite a few good ones.
As I said, we're working with our partners to do quite a lot of research, because we looked out there, as David said, there's a lot of stuff on affective filters and people feeling more comfortable and retaining things because it's real. And I mean, we've all done that thing where we've sent our students off to the local coffee shop, and the local coffee shop now hate us because they've just had a trail of students that don't want to buy anything, just ask questions. Obviously in VR, the avatars don't care, so that's an advantage. But that we've always done that because we know that's effective. Now you can do it in VR. And there's a lot of research around that area, but there's not really that much research into actual progression, whether it's communicative skills progression or overall progression. So at the moment, we've got 2 projects lined up. We've got one with Immersion, where we're doing a comparison of the learning experiences and the progression made across face-to-face, flat screen and VR. Now we're able to do this because I have the best curriculum manager, and our curriculums have been, our basic curriculum has been tweaked and adapted to fit the environment that it's being delivered in, but it is still the same basic curriculum. So we'll be doing it based on the hours that the students study, and we'll be looking at our face-to-face students when the schools are back open, using our EC virtual students using Teams, and our adult students using Teams and VR, to see what the progression, if the progression varies. Our second project is with a PhD student from the University of North Texas. And they are doing, project 1 is going to be big numbers of students, so we'll get a lot of data. Project 2 is a much smaller initial project, but we'll be looking at 2 YL classes running side by side, one using VR and one using flat screen. So they will have the same curriculum again, but one will be on Teams and one will be on VR, and we'll be comparing their learning experience on the 2. So it'll be partly experiential, but we'll also be looking at progression as well. Okay.
So I think it's important to say with all this research, we're at the beginning of this. We don't have all the answers yet because there just isn't enough research done. Can you teach in there? Yes, you can. But really interesting to see over time, is progression the same? Is it better? Is retention better? There's a lot of questions still to be answered. I think we're really excited to answer those. There's been some great questions coming in. Michael Ward, you're asking what kit do students need? So again, you know, the kit is that we're using the Oculus headset, which is the, I think, most popular one in the market. It's outselling all of the other virtual. There's Jill with it, modeling our beautiful Oculus. It comes with everything you need. You have a headset and 2 controllers, and that's how you use it. It's amazing. It's a lot of fun. It's like having it's like if you've ever had a PlayStation or Xbox, except it's on your face. It does all the same kind of things. Students would get it in their countries. It's an investment. They're £300 for one. The way, I suppose what we're thinking of is, number one, you don't just buy this for your classes and then not use it again. It's an entertainment system. You can watch Netflix through it. It's incredible. So if you're not able to travel, but you still want to have a more immersive feel, it's basically the same price as a flight or something like that. If you're going to be studying online, it's kind of the same as a laptop.
And actually not all, a lot of our students, the younger ones, have already got one because gamers use them a lot. So there's a lot of people out there that have already got them.
Yeah.
It takes me back to Chrissy's question, which is the costs of the hardware and the software. Basically, with the Immerse, it's I suppose the equivalent of renting space for the lesson. So we pay per minute of lesson taught, and their rates vary depending on who they're working on. I'm sure, I don't know, but it's not expensive. And then the teachers do their lessons on the laptop. You can't actually use your goggles to teach because you can't use your keyboard, and then you can't be dropping in whiteboards and sending notes to students, etc. So teachers use laptops. And as David said, goggles are purchased. We looked originally at including goggles in the price, but sourcing and sending out goggles to students was just too complex. So they're expected to provide their own goggles.
And also in certain countries, I know in like Korea and places like that, they now have virtual reality rooms. So where before they had PC rooms, you can now rent by the hour or whatever. So this is happening, it's growing, and I said we're at the beginning of it, but I think you'll find more and more people having these over the next year or so. Joanna was asking about observations. Observations are fantastic because I've always wanted to observe without disturbing a class. You are entirely invisible to the students. They don't know you're there. Obviously, you tell the teacher before you go in, but you're not in their way. You're not distracting them. You're basically an invisible fly in the virtual reality scene, and you just move around, which is really, really nice. And the platforms we're using it's Immerse is what we're using. There are free things out there, but honestly, the reason we're using Immerse is because it's designed for this. The kind of the freer options, like you've got your YouTube virtual reality and stuff like that. You got the little cardboard box that you slip your phone into. It's not the same. And those things for me do feel a bit gimmicky, a bit add-on-y, and not a real learning environment.
Dan has asked if it's possible to join in flat screen. Again, it is, but the experience is very different. And I mean, the amazing thing is when you put your goggles on and there's 4 or 5 of you in a room, if, for example, David is standing next to me on this side and he speaks to me, I hear him on this side of my goggles. So it's like a real life communication. If he walks away, his voice gets quieter. And if he comes towards me, it gets louder. So it's even the hearing experience is the same as real life. If you do it on flat screen, you don't get that. You miss out on that. So it really does create, I mean, and ladies, the obvious benefit is my waist has never been so small since 1979. But you've got your avatar, you don't care what you look like, and everything is the same as being in a real life experience. I mean, if people if another avatar comes too close to you, you get a feeling. It's difficult to explain, but it feels wrong. And occasionally, we've got a very enthusiastic salesperson who walks through you, and that's just horrible.
It's like that film Ghost.
So, yeah, you can do it. What I'm trying to say is you can do it in flat screen, but you do miss a lot of the experience if you're not doing it with your goggles on.
Yeah, I would say there wouldn't be much point, because it'd be like playing The Sims or something, whereas this is like living in The Sims.
So Juan asked about platforms available again. We use Immerse. I'm sure there's other platforms available, as they say on the BBC, but that's the one that we chose to use.
Kate asked about safeguarding. There's a lot of really positive things about this. So with young learners, they get their goggles and they download the app. All we give them is a code. We give them a classroom code. They put that code in and they're in our classroom. From a safeguarding point of view, parents can cast what's happening in the classroom, so they can monitor what's happening in the classroom on their phones as well, which is a real positive for parents.
They can't contact other students outside the classroom.
No.
And they can't get in to Immerse without being given the code.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a very controlled environment. If I want to talk to a student, I can put them into a group and close off the audio so no one can hear me. If I want to mute a student, I can mute them. I have complete control. If I want to remove a student from the environment, I can do that as well. So actually, from a safeguarding point of view, I think it's quite good. Azra, I'm not sure. So you said questionnaires. If you mean like worksheets and things like that, again, there are limitations with Immerse. There are things you can do. So you can there's beautiful matching exercises you can do where you match adjectives under columns and you can edit the language that's in there. So they've built a lot of stuff in and they're constantly improving it based on feedback. But yeah, of course, there are worksheets and things that are class-based. That is just not going to happen. You use this for what it's best, and currently it's best in activating language that has maybe already been taught. Eliciting language, setting it on a whiteboard and then sending them off to speak, that really works as well.
But this is constantly being developed. So it's not to say that in 6 months' time that will be the same situation. They're constantly working. Astra's got a question about questionnaires are class-based. How can we change them according to your online class needs?
That's the one I was thinking about, if you mean worksheets and things. I mean, other questionnaires, you can put surveys, surveys where a student votes how much they agree or disagree with a topic. You can put that into Immerse, but it's not that complicated. It's quite uncomplicated, and I think that's a good thing. It allows real communication to take place.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of class activities, typical class activities in there. There's like rearranging order and putting things in categories, and there's lots of these kind of activities in there, but the standard worksheet. I'm assuming that's what you meant by questionnaires, Azra, rather than feedback questionnaires. Just type another question if we're wrong.
Chris is a discount for bulk buy. I don't know. I'm not sure, to be honest. I would imagine you probably could. There's always a deal to be had.
I don't do money.
No.
We do to a certain extent, but
I just write things down.
Sorry, Jill, David, I'm on the call. It's Lisa.
Hey, Lisa.
How's
Lisa
Jill?
does do money.
I do money. I'm not Jill, everyone. It's Lisa James. Just, I wasn't sure whether that question was around bulk buy for the headsets or bulk buy for the classes. If it's bulk buy for the headsets, no. And believe me, we've tried. And believe me, I'm a pretty good negotiator. The Oculus Quest is owned by Facebook, and the most you can get is a 15-minute slot meeting. So yeah, they're very much like Apple. This is the cost of our product, and this is what it is, and it's worth every single penny.
Very good. Cheers, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
Joanna, could you do this with cardboard VR? No, I don't think so. I don't think Immerse would work on that. You couldn't have it on your phone like that. And I just don't think it would be the same.
You've got, as well as your Oculus, you have, sorry, David, you have these
controllers,
and you use these to move around. You use them to pick things up, use them to throw things. Yeah. So I can't imagine that with being in there without these to help. It's also how you mute and unmute. And
that's the thing, it's a full range of things. You can high five the other students. You are picking up a dart and throwing it at a balloon and then answering a question that pops out. It's a fully immersive environment. So you really, really need the kit. And Joanna, can you talk to one person only? Yeah, you can send private messages, or you can put yourself in a group with them and close off the audio channel. So you have a lot of options you can do in terms of classroom management. Challenges of designing a curriculum. I mean, there's always challenges with anything. For this, it was getting to know absolutely everything you can do in Immerse, and then using
it on people to make sure that it worked the way you thought it was going to work.
It's a completely new type of teaching. As I said, it is like a breakout room, but with so many other options. So I think really getting to grips with all that, and then trying to put it into a format that any teacher could then go in and pick up and use. That was the kind of the challenge. But we've tried to do quite step-by-step lesson plans for teachers, so that they can, to take the sort of sting out of planning your lessons, they can really just focus on their students and focus on the learning, as opposed to have to delve into the amazing world of Immerse and find out everything that is possible, because so much is possible. Huge amount of teachers do during a lesson? Not really. The Immerse is very easy to use, and you're sitting at your computer with full functionality. If there was no curriculum or lesson plan, yes, there's a lot more to plan and to think about. But as long as you have something that you're following, it's not as much as maybe it sounds. There's a lot of things that are possible, but that doesn't mean the teacher is doing them all the time. A lot of the time they're using basic classroom management of, here's a whiteboard, here's the language, you have this conversation, and then I bring you together and give you feedback. You know, it is kind of basic teaching techniques. And where will we publish our findings? Jill, where are all our findings going?
I think I haven't even thought about where we will publish our findings, but we will probably submit them to Voices. I hadn't really thought about this. We want to get findings first.
So we are starting out with all of our courses, and we're constantly gathering information and planning new research. But yeah, we do hope to places like English Teaching Professional and Voices for sort of different articles and just experiences we've had. And then obviously the other research that Jill's mentioned, I think, will be coming out. And we'll advertise it.
Did you get Lizzie's question about the amount that a teacher has to do during a lesson?
Yeah.
They're coping very well, Liz. Yeah. It's just that there's a huge amount to do in a classroom. It's just a different form of classroom. And as soon as they get to know it, it just becomes their classroom. And I think that's Tim appearing to tell us now to shut up.
No, you have one more minute. There's a question from Joanna about support and training from Immerse, if you want to do that, and then I can.
They're great. They have published so many guides on their website, and they've got videos on their website, and I have never worked with anyone as open to feedback and as you know, positive in support. If I want to
fast
phone
about
call,
changing things if there's a problem.
If I say it would work better in this way, in their next update, they've put it in there as an option. They are very receptive to feedback. They're fantastic to work with. Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, this has been really interesting. I as someone who read Ready Player One earlier this year, I don't know if you've read that, David or Jill.
Yeah. Seen the film.
Where the whole of the school is a virtual school, and all the students are sitting at it.
That's the aim. That's the aim. We have a whole school that is entirely virtual. Watch this space.
Watch this space, indeed. Excellent stuff. Really, like I said, thought-provoking and interesting, and lots of good comments and questions coming in from the audience, which is great to see as well. Hopefully, maybe an ELT conference in future years, we'll be sitting with headsets, and I could high five you now, David. Thanks both of you for your time. This will all be available as a recording as well for those of you who want to watch back and pick up some of those interesting bits from the presentation. And we look forward to seeing the findings of your research, and I can't wait to give one of these things a try at some point in an EC school somewhere around the world. So good stuff. Another session starts in 15 minutes. Go grab yourself a coffee, and then we'll see you over there. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.